Mr. Fowler, thank you very much for your time. February 2018 was a different country. That's when the president was inaugurated, President Ramaphosa, in Parliament at that time. And you fast forward to January 2020, there's a president who is accused of being indecisive. You also have ministers who are mired in controversy, the latest being Stella Ndabeni, who's accused of allegedly taking her husband on a world trip on taxpayers' money in order to celebrate their anniversary. Question people are asking is, what's different about this administration?
Well, I think the issue we have to look at is the history of the last 10 years. In the last 10 years, there's been a real dumbing down of government, the ability of people to manage the state resources. And what the president has had to do was to really look at cleaning up an administration that had been terribly weakened during the Zuma era. And in doing that, of course, there are going to be controversies that come about. So if you look at the SAA, for instance, that has been an institution that has been a victim of corruption, of maladministration, and similarly so with many of the SOEs. That's the case. And that's why you would find that ministers are really trying to address this problem. And maybe they are not doing it as quickly as the public would like, but it is a challenge that has to be addressed over a period of time.
And perhaps you touching on SOEs links us perfectly to the problems that have beset companies like SAA, Eskom. There's open talk now that Minister Pravin Gordhan should be among those who gets the chop if a cabinet reshuffle is mounted. Do you agree with that?
No, I wouldn't agree with that. And the reason I wouldn't agree with that is because Pravin Gordhan has been one of those that's really spoken out against corruption. He has been one who's really been the leader in terms, one of the ministers that has led on the basis of we've got to clean up government, we've got to get rid of corruption. And I think we would send a wrong message that here is a minister that deals with corruption and you're saying, no, we must remove him. And not looking at the history. And the point is that when you have a board that has been appointed that in the past, had difficulties, you get a new board that has to come in and deal with all these problems. It takes a period of time for them to be able to understand all of the issues and ensure that you address those questions. And you had an administration that over a period of time had really just been weakened completely. And so you've got to then address that.
You speak of the history. Some will say, let's put facts on the table.
Okay.
Minister Pravin Gordhan was finance minister for some 6 years. Part of the claim against him as a minister who's ineffective is that he had the budget deficit of government growing from some 31% upwards of 50%. How do you possibly justify a minister like that remaining in a post where even some of his ardent supporters are now saying perhaps this is not the post for him?
Well, I think the question to look at is that it wasn't one ministry that came under pressure. There were several ministers that came under pressure. And if you look at the relationship with the Guptas and the ability of them, and in fact, if you look at the Zondo Commission evidence that's been given, where it's been very clear that the president, the previous President Zuma, was aware of some of the things that was happening and in fact, who encouraged this relationship with the Guptas. And that then weakened the ability of ministers to deal with these problems. So on the one hand, you have somebody who may be trying to protect the resources. On the other hand, you have others who are dipping into those resources at the behest of the leadership of the country.
Mr. Fowler, I'm completely out of time, but I've got to put this question to you. The president has been on this drive to unite the ANC. You seem to suggest in your statement last week that there's no point in pursuing unity with people who are still intent on looting.
Well, what is important is that unity must be based on the ability to address the needs of the people of South Africa. And it is clear that when the president won in 2017, he won by a very small margin. And some of those who were opposed to him were those who supported the previous administration that we know looted billions from the administration. So the question is that you must have unity, but you must do it in a principled way. And you must be able to change the way things are working. And if those people want to change their ways and do things correctly, they must do it correctly. But if not, then you've got to address the problem. And that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to address the problem, but yet ensure that the organization is not destroyed from a previous administration that really didn't care about either the country nor the historical organization that belonged to, the African National Congress.
Mr. Fowler, thank you very much for your time. Next time around, we're going to talk about what some claim are vested interests by veterans and stalwarts like yourselves. But that's a discussion for another time.
Quite happy to address it anytime.
We'll invite you back. Thank you very much for your time.